Welcome to the Hundredth Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon, and man, do we have a special treat for you guys this weekend. Oh, Ramon, you know, this guy, I should let you take this away because you know this guy intimately, and I only had the honor of chatting with him a couple of times on a couple of times that he called into the shows, and I happened to miss this show myself as I was out tooling around chasing UFOs around a big field at Mount Adams that weekend.
We actually mentioned that in the show. This show was recorded 2013. Is that right, Tom?
June? Yeah, it was 2013.
June.
Oh, something like that. No, it was actually September of
2013.
You sure?
No, it wasn't. I think it was. Was it September? Sorry about that. But anyway, this is a memoriam show for Bayoan Cortes, or better known as B.
June 29th.
June 29th. I knew it was June. For a dear friend of mine, we grew up together on the Upper West Side of New York City, and we mentioned that on the show. And just wanted to say that, as he says on the show, it is what it is, and we went into a lot of deep things. And some of you who might be listening to the show would be listening to the show the first time because of him. And, you know, you grew up with him or know him, or maybe it got inked by him because he was a tattoo artist. And, you know, it seems a little too short, but as he would say, it is what it is.
Yeah, you know, that saying, you know, when I've re-listened to that show a couple of times today, and just listening to that, I got a really good sense of B's attitude about all of this, about life, about the dramas in the world, about the, you know, the journey that we're on, and how he approached everything with that attitude of, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to deal with things that come my way and do it the best I can as they come my way. I mean, that speaks a tremendous amount about this man and the way he lived his life. So.
Yeah, and you know, what was even more important is, like, I started the show with you, and he was like one of the first listeners, and he introduced people to it, and not only that, he went out and he connected with our audience and our people that we interviewed right on his own. So he was out putting himself out there and, you know, teaching other people. So, you know, it makes him very dear to my heart, and we're gonna miss you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm sure he's out there listening to, out there or in there or wherever it might be, listening to the recording of this show tonight, and I'm sure he's actually probably pretty amazed that we care enough to do something like this. So.
Yeah, I also want to mention that a couple of days after he passed away, he came to me in a dream, and it was strange because he came to me as, I think he was like 5 or 6 years old, and we'll be putting this on YouTube and posting some pictures, and I don't remember what we talked about, unfortunately, but I got to see him, so that was really nice. Even though it was the dream for me that was really important. So, we'll miss you.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, buckle up and kick back and check out Bayoan Cortez. Did I say that right? Probably not.
Probably not. That's how most people just call it.
B. Cortez. He's awesome dude, man. Hey, B, we love you, man. And, you know, give us a call.
Yeah, we'll definitely do another interview from the other side.
There we go. All right, guys. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And here we go with Mr. B.
Only the free can tell the truth, then the truth can set you free. Only the free can
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with Tom and Ramon. Actually, I'm so used to saying that. It's only Ramon this time. Tom's at ECETI having a blast over there, listening to some great speakers and seeing UFOs flying across the sky. So hopefully he can probably get me a ship off one of those guys, maybe make a trade or something. Tom's always talking about that he's going to start a spaceship mechanic shop, and he's going to put some, I forgot what you call that, like this tape that you put on ambulance that he's going to put on his roof. So hopefully he can get me something like that. But anyway, we have a great show for you guys. But before I introduce our guests, I just want to go over the website with you guys. My website is www.the100thmonkeyradio.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Tom's YouTube, which is Tau2929, and that's all on the website too. And you can listen to all the archives. And also we have a pre-recorded show that we do that we will release every Sunday, so that'll be tomorrow for you guys. And it's Sunday morning for me. I know it's Saturday night for many of you people out there. And hopefully you're enjoying your Saturday night. And those of you who woke up early with me, you're enjoying your Sunday morning. So let's see, who do we have today? Actually, before I read his bio, the person we have today is a very old friend of mine, and actually grew up with my brother. And he was one of those weird guys who started introducing me into weird stuff. The weird stuff that now we're always listening to and I'm interviewing people about. And many different ideas, and he, was one of the first people I remember listening talk about the whole New World Order and Masonic lodges and stuff like that. And of course, at first, being 19 years old, 18 years old, it's kind of getting splashed with cold water. It's like, huh? Where am I? But anyway, we'll talk more about those things and many things, just weird things happening all over the earth and happening to each and one of us. So Bayoan Cortez was named both by his mother and father, agreed to name me until the day I was born. It is the name I choose to use as an artist, professional tattoo, martial artist, self-defense, Chief Advance Instructor, Metaphysician and Web Activist. Yes, he is. If you guys follow him on his Facebook, you'll definitely see that. I grew up on the Upper West Side, same neighborhood as me, Morningside Heights, most of my life, or as I call it, Harlem. Just a stone throw away from Columbia University, I began my journey as a human being living through the amazing and crazy times of the 1970s in New York City, and the Son of Sam era, when it really was a magical and scary place, the true school of hard knocks. As a child, I had some harsh life and near-death experience. At 2.5 years, I had a tonsillectomy, and before the age of 8, I was pushed off a slide and suffered bleeding head injury, and soon thereafter I had a serious allergy attack. Even though I encountered such a difficult incident so early in my life, my strong connection to the spirit realm coming from my maternal lineage of early in my life, my strong connection to the spirit coming from my maternal lineage of spiritual inheritance made me conscious of cultivating and preserving that special gift that was given to me by my ancestors. So you can go to the website and you can read the rest of his bio. Bayoan, as most of your friends call you, B. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Ramon. It's a pleasure being here. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's listening. I want to give the shout-outs now so we don't have to go at the end of the show. I want to give a shout-out to my mom and my sister I love very much, to the people in my everyday life, Carlos Anavia, Antonella Castaldo, and all the group on Facebook like Empath, Esoteric Mystery School, and of course, all roads lead to the truth. So once I got that out the way, I just want to talk a little bit about myself, and so I could sort of go over what you had just spoken about. You know, everybody calls me Dean because they can't pronounce Bayoan, and my name is Bayoan Cortez. And since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a tattoo artist. I would say in my early teens, but becoming an artist was my main thing. And drawing as a child was a big thing for me. And I saw it as a way to sort of feel good and be noticed. And I was actually pretty good at it. And so that kind of became my first sort of true loves, was painting and drawing and, you know, comic books and things like that.
Yeah. I wanted to go a little bit into the inspirations of your art, because I've seen a lot of your art and even the graffiti stuff. What inspired you to become an artist? Was it a specific art or a person?
Well, I would say that, you know, it was just the cartoons as a kid growing up. I mean, to be honest with you, the very first pictures, I was literally 5 years old. I think it was my first day of first grade at PS 75 in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I think it was like Christmas time, and I think I drew like Santa Claus and like in his sleigh or something like that. It was a really crude picture, but I loved it so much, and I think the teacher saw that, and then I think that's when she, you know, she sort of made the mention to my parents that, you know, you did a really good drawing. And I think that sort of satisfaction and encouragement just kept me sort of going in that direction. That was kind of the basic, true beginning of where it started. But after that, it was, you know, comic books, really. Just, you know, reading all the comic books, seeing the cartoons, and then wanting to become actually a comic book illustrator, which is why I went to the High School of Art and Design. And did that for 4 years, but it was a difficult slog because there's so many good artists that went to that school. You know, when you're in a regular school, you're the artist, like, wow, everybody wants to go to you and say, wow, you draw really well. But when you're in an art school with everybody is an amazing artist, it's like, wow, you kind of get lost. You kind of try to find your place in there. So it's a bit difficult, you know. So like, wait a second, I thought I was so good. And then you go around and it's like, oh my God, this guy literally draws like an adult professional artist, and he's like 12 or 13 years old or something like that. So it kind of blows you away. But that's sort of how it started, and I went in that direction, and I did some professional jobs here and there, you know, for companies and stuff like that. Like, I got little art jobs. I did a lot of my own art jobs, and I would have people have me paint their jackets and jean jackets back in the graffiti era and things like that. So I've done that whole deal. And that's kind of how it sort of started becoming like a business for me, and sort of supporting myself, being able to get the things I sort of wanted as a teenager and then a young adult, you know.
Yeah.
But,
when did you decide to become a tattoo artist?
Wow, that was a big deal. I wound up moving out to Puerto Rico. I sort of wanted to find, you know, what my heritage was and my culture was. I felt that sort of need. I was sort of sick and tired of New York, and things were, you know, they were pretty difficult. They weren't awful. They were just difficult. I just thought I needed to change the scene. And I went out to PR, and I was working there with a cousin of mine, and it was one of the only jobs that I could find because I was living out there on my own. And I think at one point I wound up living with my uncle for a little while. But it was pretty difficult. The job I found was like unloading these giant 18-liter trucks that were coming from Florida, and they basically had like frozen like meat and stuff like that in boxes, but they were literally stacked up from top to bottom all the way back, but they were just in a mess. There was nothing was organized. So I would have to wake up with me and my cousin at 4 o'clock in the morning to try to get over there to wait on that line till 6:30, and hopefully you were the third or fourth guy, because you got paid about $20-30 for each 18-wheeler that you organized. So you were lucky if you could organize like maybe 2 or 3 a day with another person, and you were splitting that money together. So, you know, I did that for a while. And then I wound up getting pneumonia, because you're talking about going from 90-degree heat, and then, you know, you're talking about maybe 30 degrees, 20 degrees, or even 0 in some of these freezers they had. And I went to go get a tattoo for my birthday, And I decided, like, you know, hey, I had to do this. You know, I can't keep working in this situation. I nearly, you know, it was a pretty bad thing. Having pneumonia for 3 weeks, not knowing what, you know, how you're going to come out of it. And thankfully, my grandmother helped me out of that and healed me up and made me well. And that's how the whole journey to even getting to become a tattoo artist started. And that started in Old San Juan with a person named Indio Cancel. He was the first person I met. He's the guy who actually tattooed me, and then apprentice under him for a little while. That was in the early, like I was actually in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay. And how did you, I have to ask this question, how did your parents
go ahead.
How did your parents feel about it?
My mom was not happy. Let's just say it that way. She was not happy about it. But she loved me very much, and she encouraged me, you know. She actually didn't speak to me the first time I actually got tattooed. Before I even moved out there, I had gotten tattooed. But, you know, it's what I want. My parents were always very encouraging to me. You know, I had wonderful parents. They were great parents. I love them both. And my father was sort of, you know, he sort of said, hey, as long as you're happy, it's great. So he sort of encouraged me, you know, to do it. It was, you know, after a while you get over it. You know, of course, you're not happy. Your son's getting tattooed, you know. But, you know, I was already a young man. You know, there's not much you could do at that point. I was already in my, you know, 20s already, so in my early 20s. So, but, you know, they got over it. And now, you know, I've supported myself these years on and off, you know, doing the tattooing. So it's just a part of my life now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think they're fine with it.
Yeah, I gotta go into the story because this is a funny story. The first time I got tattooed, I was 20 years old, and
Right.
and guess who did it? And it was B who actually tattooed me. And I get home, and for a couple of days I was covering it up, and my mom didn't know anything about it. And one day it was hot during the summer, and I left the shirt off, and I forgot. And then I feel somebody like touching my back, and I wake up and it was my mom, and I was like, oh crap. So I kind of like, you know, make believe like I was still sleeping, and just like trying to rub it off.
Yeah, I had that same situation. The sister I love so much, she was like, Bayo has a tattoo. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know, but it happens. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's worse things that you could be doing, believe me.
Yeah, way worse things.
Yeah.
So let's go into your first deaf experience and what was that like and what happened?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I was very young. I was a baby. And it's funny that I actually still have memories of that experience. I was about 2 to 3 years old, and I guess, you know, I had no idea what the heck was going on. What I do remember was being in a hospital bed, and basically the memory goes like this. I actually remember being somewhere else besides in my body. Even at that young age, I sort of had, I felt, for me, in my view, was that I was in another world. You know what I mean? Some would say with heaven, or I don't know what you want to call it. But in this place, it was a very happy, peaceful place. And I think the funny thing is I had a friend there in this other place. And this friend, we were playing around, like little kids play around with toys or something like that. It was, you know, it was a very sort of open area, almost like a courtyard, or like, you know, it had like large steps and like grass grounds. It was like very wide and big from my view. And I just remember playing with my friend, whoever this person was, because I don't even remember them very clearly. And then these sort of went off, and then it was very strange. There was like these two monks. They were dressed like in a reddish orange garb, and they were sort of taking this person away and to a certain place. And when you looked over to where they were taking this person, you could actually see the earth. It was bizarre. It was like the land had finished, there was outer space, and then all of a sudden, like, Earth. You could actually see it. It looked like the size of a basketball or something like that. And this person sort of, like, went into, like, a light, like a shoot of light, and then, boom, gone, you know? And I was asking the monks, like, hey, where did my friend go? I want to know where my friend went. And they were like, well, they went to, you know, they went down to the planet. And it was a strange experience because I felt very sad. I was like, why did my friend leave me? I didn't understand what's going on. And I had decided to sort of say, well, I want to go too. I want to find my friend. And I sort of said, well, I want to go. And the monks were like, are you sure? Do you really want to go? And I was like, yeah, I really want to go back. I want to go. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm literally shooting down onto the planet, you know, and I could just hear, like, very faintly in the background as I'm sort of sliding down whatever this thing was, you know, I don't know, you guess you call it a wormhole or something, I don't know what it was. And I just hear them in the background saying, wow, what a brave soul. You know, I'm like,
going down to that place.
I'm thinking, like, wait a second, what did I just do? And then I actually wake up, and I'm in my bed, and I think the first person I see is my father. I see my grandmother, and then I see my mom. And they wound up giving me, I'll never forget it, and that's why the memory is so strong. They gave me a little green Scooby-Doo like van. I'll never forget it. So, you know, I had a little green Scooby-Doo van, and so that memory has always been strong. And that was the first time I sort of had that experience. And then what I find out later, I guess, you know, from my mom and my parents, is that, you know, it was pretty young to have a tonsillectomy. You know, I mean, I went through the surgery, and, you know, that's the experience I had. That I actually remembered when I was more into my, you know, like maybe 8 or 9 years old, 10. But the memory was still very, very strong. So that was like the first time, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Before we go into that one,
right.
What did your parents say about it? Did they say, like, they almost lost you, or what was their point of view?
They were very, very concerned. I think, you know, maybe it was a sort of common surgery, but I think for being so young, you know, it could have went bad. You know what I mean? They kind of. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because it almost sounded like you kind of gave up and you're like, okay, I'm done, and, you know, you were gonna stay up there wherever there is. And
well, I mean, imagine you're feeling happy and blissful. You're with, you know, maybe this person's best friend, whoever this person was that I thought when I was there, and you're like, you know, you just got here, and now you're going back to where you just came from. So it's like, okay, I'm going back home. That's what it kind of felt like, you know, like, oh, I'm real happy here. I love it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But when my friend left, it was like, oh, wait a second, I don't want to be here if my friend's gone. And I said, when I went back, and that's kind of like the first experience that I remember having.
yeah. So
it was just a strange thing, you know what I mean? I didn't really think much of it. It was just like, okay, that's just what it is, and left it alone, you know?
yeah. So with the second experience, what happened?
Okay, now that was a very, very, like, traumatic experience. I was actually, you know, at St. John's Cathedral.
Yeah.
You remember that? Okay,
Yeah.
remember in the back, way back in the day, they used to have a sand park. You remember they used to have a sand park? It was on the second level. They used to have the garages. It was sort of the back of the church.
Yeah.
Where they just built those freaking Trump towers, which I freaking hate.
Yeah,
But-
though they're isolated.
Yeah, they just sold away like $20 million of the property, which is the Trump of all things. Anyway, so back there, they used to have a playground, and I was on, they used to have like a slide, but the slide was pretty tall, man. It was like at least...
The really wide slide?
Yeah, no, it was a thin one. It was way back in the day.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like a wrought iron one, and it was pretty tall. It was like at least 10 to 15 feet high. It was strange, you know what I mean? Now, I don't think they put ladders, you know, do slides that high without having some type of safety. But this was like, you know, basically some metal thing put up with a metal slide. And I was like maybe 5 years old or something like that, you know what I mean, six years old. And I was still a baby still. And some girl literally pushed me off the slide, dude, and I landed head first on a piece of concrete that was out on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I blanked out, and I wake up, and my mom is picking me up, and I think one of her friends from the neighborhood, he was a super, and she was freaking out, obviously, because my head is busted open, I'm bleeding all over the place, I'm a baby, and, I think he takes me to the emergency room, And I really, like, to be honest with you, in that moment, I just don't, it was sort of like a blackout experience. You know what I mean? I woke up when I was out of the emergency room, and I think I was in my mom's arm, and they had the stitches, like, on me and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They had my whole head bandaged up. But, you know, it was another moment where I just felt like, okay, I'm just asleep, and this is awesome. You know what I mean? It was a pretty blissful experience. It wasn't, like, negative or any way. I was...
So you never felt any of the pain at all?
Not at all. Nothing. Zippo, zilch. It felt like if I just relaxed and went to sleep, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, I had a similar experience around the same age, and, you know, me and B grew up like a block away from each other, and on
Right.
110th Street they had like this brick kind of seating area. I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
And,
Right.
And I remember running off that, and when I tried to jump over this garbage can, and I guess I like missed my step and hit the garbage can, and I don't remember anything else, but I have like vague memory of like busting all my teeth, and luckily it was all my baby teeth. But I remember they took me to the emergency room, and I know I was with my brother and my sister. My mother was there.
Right.
And, you know, because I had ran and jumped over this thing several times, so it wasn't no big deal. But again, it's the same thing as you. It's like you don't remember the pain or anything. Like, I remember other things where, you know, but no pain there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like you have an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking at yourself falling or whatever, and, you know, literally, it's just pretty, you know, pretty strange. But, I mean, I'm glad I didn't feel the pain, obviously, because, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
Actually, it's funny. Go ahead. I
was going to say, that reminds me of, I think I've heard it from either the Cherokee or the Pontiac, that they have this, they can do that at will, so when they're going through great suffering, like they're being beaten or they're at war, that they can kind of remove, like they're still there and they're still reacting with the world, but they kind of remove themselves enough where they don't feel any physical pain.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm surprised you, I was reading that there's a book probably most people read, is something of Little Tree, the raising of Little Tree, or the life of Little Tree.
Right.
It's about a little Native American kid who gets taken away from his Native American parents and gets put more like in a Christian kind of thing in the 1800s. But anyway, going back to what you were saying.
Yeah, so, I mean, after the other experience, I mean, that experience pretty much finished there. You know, after that I went home and then, you know, had, you know, the whole process of healing up. So that was kind of that whole experience was just sort of like I was totally, completely, like, not there. It was just strange then waking up and, like, okay, I'm fine, like, totally, like, no problem. You know, I did lose a whole lot of blood. So it was pretty shocking that, you know, everything was fine and I was totally normal. There's nothing wrong with it. The next experience I had, which is probably one of the ones I remember the most, because it was pretty traumatic on that one. I remember going to, I think I was around 8 years old or something like that. I went to my mom's friend's house, and then she wound up she had 8 or 9 Siamese cats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I started playing with the cats. We went to the home, and my mom's, you know, they're talking, just chatting away, and I'm playing with the cats in like a side room or something like that. And I'm playing, and then all of a sudden I start feeling like, oh, my eyes are itchy. I can't breathe too well. I don't know what's going on. And I walk over to my mom, and I tell her, Mom, I don't feel well. You know, I can't breathe. My eyes are itching, and she's looking at me, and the look in her face is like, oh my God, you know.
Horror.
And yeah, exactly. Like she looked frozen, like she didn't know what to do. And I guess my face must have been blown up or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And literally, they wound up rushing me to the hospital, and luckily they shot me up with adrenaline. And the doctor said, you know, that if you hadn't got your son here 10 minutes later, he probably wouldn't have survived. You know what I mean? So literally, that was another close one for me. Thankfully they were able to get to where they were going, get me to the hospital, and they they got that adrenaline to open me up. But that's how I actually learned that I was allergic to cats. I didn't even have a clue that I was allergic,
Yeah.
So it was pretty traumatic. That was a very traumatic experience for me,
It seems like somebody's really looking out for you. So we're going to go on break in about 30 seconds, and we'll come back. We'll continue with some of your experience, because you've had some really wild experience. And I remember from my early adulthood, we would always talk about, go back and forth with our crazy experiences. And luckily,
yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, we have an audience full of people who've had their own crazy experiences. But anyway, you're listening.
The barrier.
Yeah, right. You're listening to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with just Ramon this time. So used to saying Tom and Ramon and B, and we'll be back. So stay tuned. Sorry, I forgot the words. Anyway, welcome back to the 100th Monkey Radio Show. I'm over at studying having a little time. If you don't know ECETI, you should get up there. It's up in Trout Lake, Washington. It's a great place to see UFOs. Or something that flies in the sky and stops and does crazy maneuvers, lights up, and you shoot one of those laser pens at it, and it matches the color. That was my first experience when I was there the first time I went. Anyway, so we have a great guest and a really old friend of mine. So it's, years just fly by. B, welcome back.
Yes. Hello, I'm back, yeah.
So, I want to go into, culturally speaking, compared,
right.
In Puerto Rico, even though it's part of America, it's culturally different. And how did you grow up as far as when it comes to the whole idea of UFOs and abductions and contact and all those things from the Puerto Rican point of view compared to the American point of view?
It's funny, I think maybe back when I was growing up, it wasn't so much that as it was more like ghosts and spirits and things like that. That would probably be more, I think the UFO or alien thing was really something more of a more recent sort of, thing that people are talking about.
Where's your family from in Puerto Rico?
Well, they're from all over, but mostly the northern part of the island. But I have family all over, mostly central, some in the southern. But mostly the northern parts, like the more city metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Like San Juan and places like that.
Yeah.
But it's part of the culture. If you go up into the mountains and things like that, it's a part of like everyday sort of life. It's they don't think of it. It's like looking at a fish in the ocean. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, there's a light up there. Okay, we see it, and it's like they keep living their life. You know what I mean? It's not something that they freak out about. It's just like they've always been there, and yeah, it's just we're not sure exactly, but yeah, we see it moving around. You know what I mean? It's not like this whole everything stops. Oh my God, it's not like that. It's just a part of the native culture there. I think think of it this way. I mean, if they're not really bothering you, they're not doing nothing hardcore against you, why are you worrying so much? You know what I mean? So it's kind of, let people live, and as long as you're not bothering anything, everything's cool. So,
that's funny because that's just such a common thing throughout the entire a Latin American thing compared to America, where it's you know, what? Nothing's there. You know, it's very different. So I always find it amazing.
Yeah, it's just a part of nature. I mean, people just think of it as it's a part of nature, something kind of unexplainable, but they know it exists and they just accept it that it exists, and you know, it's nothing to be so going crazy over. You know what I mean? I'm sure maybe certain natives have certain experiences and things like that, but not that I know of. And I'm a novice, so you're asking somebody in terms of that. They're probably much more qualified people who are more into that, especially on the island, would know way more than me. But I'm just assuming that from the interaction I have with people from the island, it's not like a huge big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, we've seen them. The lights are up there. There's so many experiences I've had up there that people see them all the time. So it's like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Pretty much.
Yeah, because when I talk to a lot of my Puerto Rican friends in New York, there's two places that get mentioned the most, and I don't know how close or how far they are from each other. One is El Yunque, and the other one is Laguna de what's it called? That famous lake.
Are you talking like the you see the sea creatures like they glow in the dark or something like that?
The mayor there, he renamed it UFO Highway because it was
really.
Yeah, Laguna.
I didn't even know that.
Laguna de something. Yeah.
Wow.
The reason why I brought it up because I know you yourself have had like some very weird experiences and.
Yeah, sure.
Have most of them been in New York or Puerto Rico? Or?
There's something that happened recently, like maybe about a few months ago, sometime in March. But I'll tell you something about happening in PR when I was younger, and I'll talk about that. And if you want, we'll talk about the one that happened like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
The one in Puerto Rico is very strange. I remember driving along the highway, which is the main highway that sort of cuts down the middle of the island to get from the north to the south. I think they call it the old road, or La Vieja Carretera. I think it's the number one. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But I remember there's a point, and there's these mountains that people call, in Spanish, I'll say it. I'm not going to say it in English, but I'll say it in Spanish. They call it La Teca de Calle, which is like these mountains that look kind of like breasts. You know what I mean? They're just super pronounced, and they, each pueblo fights over, which mountain is theirs. It's pretty funny, but it's like a weird hot spot. Sometimes we drive up this highway at night, and you literally see rows and rows of cars parked up, and everybody pointing off into the distance to like lights, just like swirling around, doing stuff that helicopters don't do, planes don't do. So it's pretty funny. It's almost like a tourist attraction. So that was one of the crazy experiences that we were driving up one night, and we see all these cars parked up, and we're like, what's going on? And everybody's getting out the cars and sort of pointing and looking, and we all stop and we check what we're looking at, and it's like, holy cow, literally like 3 or 4 like orbish lights just sort of playing and dancing between the mountains. You know what I mean? And you're not talking for like 5 minutes. You're talking about half an hour, 45 minutes. So it was pretty amazing. And people just like, okay, you gotta go back to work tomorrow. Everybody packs up and goes home. You know what I mean? So that was like one of the ones I've seen in Puerto Rico personally myself. And there's all types of stories about El Yunque, and all types of creatures and all types of experiments, and the secret bases being up there. So there's a whole bunch of that for sure. Whether if it's true or not, that's for other people who investigate and have more knowledge of that. But me personally, I haven't been there, so I couldn't really tell you.
I guess I've been to Puerto Rico, but I haven't been there, so we're gonna have to take a trip there one day, me and you, into the.
Okay, I'll go with you, but I won't camp out at night.
Pendejo.
Dude, I heard so many people go out there at night and they come running back, man. They don't stay up there long, dude. Really, it's a very dark and spooky place, man.
Yeah, no, I've heard
people get lost every year and they never find them again.
I've heard the stories of
should not play with nature.
I've heard the stories of somebody was, and I think you know these people too. they're from 110th Street. They were telling me that they were up there and they saw like some red eyes in the forest.
Yeah. So
it's like
there's all types of weird stuff up there, man. Nobody's ever seen.
yeah,
And you know, there's secret bases literally that'll pop out of nowhere, and you're like, what the hell's going on? You know, it's like total jungle. You walk out and you see a 10-foot fence, and you're like, wait a second, don't trespass. Like, what the hell is this doing here? You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
yeah,
One of the other experiences was actually pretty recent, which was very, very bizarre. It was, we were actually down in Orlando. I was there with a friend, his wife, and a friend of mine, and we were driving into Orlando, actually into Miami Beach. We were going for dinner. We had made reservations for 10 o'clock to dinner, and we're driving across from the mainland to Miami Beach. We're going to go, you know, to, I think, I forgot the name of the restaurant, it's a Cuban restaurant to go eat at. And we're driving across, you know, everybody's completely sober. We're just driving to go to dinner. And we're going over one of the bridges towards the northern part of the island. And we see what looks like, you know, is a plane, you know, like something, you know, it's Miami, there's probably a plane landing or something like that. The funny thing is that this plane comes in, but it's like an orangey orbish light. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like a plane. It's sort of like an orangey orbish light. And then as it comes closer to us, it is a plane. But then the weird thing is that, you know how when you're going past something as you're driving, it should pass by you, right? The plane should pass by your land. The thing is that this thing was super close. It had no sound, all right, at all. And as we're driving away from it, it's not flying away from us behind us. It's actually keeping the same level and the same speed, and it's sort of like onto our side. And it follows, and we're there looking at this thing, and we're like, what the heck is this? You know, it looked like an orb, and then all of a sudden, it's a jet plane. You know what I mean? It looked like a plane about to land, but it's not moving. It's literally just sitting in straight air, almost like parallel to us, kind of following us. I didn't know what to think. But for me, I was like, what is that? That is not normal. This is not a plane. And, you know, and then I've seen stuff online later that people saying that, you know, they've seen objects sort of transform into different sort of, you know, different type of objects and stuff like that. You know, so that was actually one of the weirdest ones. And we actually saw two of them. That was the first one. And as we came in closer into Miami, we actually saw another one, the same type of thing. So it was bizarre, man. But,
yeah.
You know, to me,
it sounds like if you have that technology, that would be the perfect way to disguise yourself, because most people would just drive by and think, okay, a plane, and not even realize that it's not acting like a plane. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was funny that it reminded me of another experience that looked exactly the same. I was actually up in Puerto Rico, and the same thing happened with somebody else. I won't mention who it was, but we were actually sitting in the backyard looking at this weird, you know, sort of orangey light, and it was coming across the field. It was high up. It looked like it could have been a plane, but it was completely and utterly silent. And then it was orange, and then literally when it was like maybe less than 100 yards away, something like that, all of a sudden it looked like a plane, flew over us, completely silent, and then just shot off. But no sound, no noise, no nothing. It's completely silent, which is bizarre, you know?
Yeah.
You hear the jet planes. When you're in Puerto Rico, you hear planes everywhere. You know what an airplane sounds like. You know?
Yeah, that's the same thing I say about in New York City. You know, like where we grew up, you see planes like you can count up to 12 planes in the air, and you see when they're making a line to land either at LaGuardia, Newark, or JFK. So I think the majority of New Yorkers know what a plane, a helicopter looks like.
Yeah,
so,
or sounds like.
Yeah, because you see them all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why every 5 minutes.
I agree with you. Yeah, and up here, you know, where I'm at now, you sort of know that too, because they're circling to land and stuff like that, and you know, and the sound is distinct. You understand that, but when there's like no sound, and it kind of freaks you out because you're like, what's happening here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that's a key factor in it, because you know, most people don't think of Puerto Rico, even the major cities, as being, you know, hot spots, but there's been plenty of cases, contact and abduction cases in New York City.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, you know, it's funny you say that. You remember back in 2000, I think it was 2011, remember when I told you I sent you that video link?
Yeah.
Of a client of mine who was in Harlem, and he saw an entire UFO fleet literally go across. I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm going to call it a fleet, a bunch of orbs, making shapes of like the cross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you just go to YouTube and put Harlem UFO, like I think it's 2011, or 2012. I'm more sure it's 2011.
I think it's 2011.
Yeah, it's 2011. And my client recorded that live. You know what I mean? He was there watching the whole thing. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. And within a few weeks, people started uploading their videos of the same exact event, but from closer and different angles. You know, it was mind-blowing. Like, you know, it was pretty mind-blowing, like shooting across completely and in like a type of formation. And it wasn't like little tiny, you know, people would see like, you know, drone-like looking planes. No, this thing was something else too. You know what I mean? These things were pretty big, and they were pretty bright, and they were doing stuff that, to me, if you look at the videos, it's like, wait a second, this doesn't look, you know, from here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm no expert, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, most of us were not experts, but I think I would call myself an expert in knowing what a plane looks like.
Yeah, that I would definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I would say the average. If you don't know what a plane looks like by now, then I don't know where you're living, because
right.
You know, I'm here in Japan and I don't live in Tokyo, but I see planes all the time in the sky. You know what direction they're flying on because they really don't change course. It's a highway,
right.
So they fly that highway.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
But you've also had some like some weird dreams that made you wonder, because it's funny because you were telling me about these dreams, and then later my nephew would tell me the similar kind of dreams that you would tell me about.
Really?
Yeah, with the grays and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what I'll do? I'll tell you one. There's been a lot of things that's been going on. I think since I was a kid, having those experiences. You know what I mean? I think I'm just highly connected, or like, you know, there's just a, you know, I can sort of feel that around, you know what I'm saying? It's like in the air, like I'm so close to that, I think from my childhood experiences. But I'll talk to you about experience that I actually talked to James Gilliland about on his show, like maybe, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago. And I actually spoke to John D. Riley, which is another guest. And,
oh yeah, really cool guy.
He's an awesome guy. Love him. Hello, John, wherever you are. And I want to give a shout out to Crystal Clark too. She's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was actually I was speaking to James about it. And it was the weirdest thing. I actually was in a dream, and I was actually eavesdropping on a conversation. It must have been some type of being or something like that, and I wanted to hear more about it because what they were talking about was very interesting. I don't remember what they were saying at all, but for some reason I really wanted to hear. Like, it was so interesting that I wanted to hear it. So it seems that these two separate beings, are talking to each other, and I want to listen in. So I sort of floated in. Now I don't know if I was by myself, if I had my guide with me or something like that, but I sort of floated in, like I wanted to get closer to hear the conversation. And when that happened, the sort of this green-looking being turned around. He had like semi-blue and red eyes, split blue eyes.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, and like it's almost like he gravitated straight to my face, and I woke up. Right, I was in my bedroom. I woke up, and I could still see in half of my eyelids. So in my eyelids on top, I could still see him clearly, but with my eyes open at, you know, sort of like the bottom of my eyelids, I could see my room completely clearly, and I'm like awake, like I'm looking inside my bedroom. but I could still see you. It was like you had a split screen. The
Yeah.
bug screen was this being, the opposite screen was inside of my apartment. It was very strange. And the minute that happened, what I told James, and I've actually spoken to this with John too, that I've received some type of download of information. I actually went in depth with it, I think, with John. He spoke about it, and it was pretty intense. You know what I mean? It was almost like getting a glimpse of like the entire library of Earth,
Yeah.
of its history, like in like a second. It was unreal. You know, we're all interconnected. You know, we are one. Like that whole thing. You know, we're literally like on a cell. We're inside a cell. So anything that happens on the planet, if it's not coming from outside, obviously, it's recycled within the cell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're talking about lifetimes of every creature since the beginning. You know what I mean? And we're interconnected with that because it's this sort of closed system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was pretty intense, man. It was a little spooky, but that was actually something that happened like about a year ago.
Yeah. It seems like these experiences are intensifying for a lot of people, or just more people are willing to talk about it. And I'm not sure which one is it. If it's intensifying or people are just more open, because I find that when I talk to people, I'm getting more people saying, you know, telling these weird stories where they've had certain experiences, where before maybe people just kept it to themselves.
You know what's funny? Every time I think about about this sort of subject and what you just said, I think a lot about Kurt Nugent.
Yes.
And something he said about the golden ratio. That once you reach the golden ratio, that's when the sort of human consciousness at a world level, at a planetary level, will change. And we've definitely crossed that golden ratio. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that human consciousness as a whole has sort of evolved enough. We're still dealing with old stuff, but I think that golden ratio point has been reached, and it's like now we're open to so many things that we were closed off to. So, you know, people who are brave enough and open enough to sort of experience these things and talk about them, you know, I think the stronger they're going to get. You know what I mean? If you want to even call it strength, which is probably the wrong word to use, it'll probably be more open to those type of experiences, and you know, and sort of learning from them or gaining sort of knowledge from that. And plus, you know, the entire planetary system, we're all in a whole new different part of space, man. You know, so we are like sponges, and the universe and the electromagnetic energy is shooting information down at us. And, you know, we are absorbing that. You know what I mean? We're like batteries, and we're sucking in that energy, and we're, you know, people can also give it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also, I've heard several people talk about how the physical body is becoming more crystallized. And, you know, the first time I heard that was from a monk. People call him a monk, but I'm not sure if he's a monk or not. Khan, and he lives here in Japan, and he was the first person to talk about that. But then after him, I've heard other people talk about that, and you know, I feel, at least for myself, I feel that that's very true. How do you look at it?
I don't know if, for me personally, like I said, you know, I'm going from my own personal experience, my own quantum reality stream from my own experiences, that I don't know if crystal would be, you know, crystal is something that stores information, which is great, but I think of crystal as something that's hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, for me, I understand the point of crystal in terms of the information that it can store, the emotion it could probably store, but not as something solid. For me, it would be something much more, I mean, to me, it would be like an energetic water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of, that's more, in my view, that's what I'm thinking than it is an actual, like, solid thing. But the point is definitely well taken that, yeah, we are definitely in a lot of ways, because I've seen things and heard things from people that I thought I would never hear.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. They look at you like a crazy, 2-3 years ago. Now they're like, holy cow, I believe you, and yeah, this is. So it's just pretty. There are definitely big changes. People are waking up.
Yeah, you hear
happening.
You hear me and Tom tell these stories all the time. Like, I had a friend of mine who called me from New York on Skype and was like, Ramon, I'm really sorry. And I was like, well, what for? I was like, you're not crazy anymore.
I'm telling you, believers, the tinfoil hat crew is coming back with a vengeance, okay? This is no joke, man. People are just really like, holy cow, they can't believe. It's unreal what's happening today on the planet. I mean, if you have any centesimal of, like, compassion or inquisitive nature, and you look at everything that's happening, you're like, my God, why doesn't anybody else see it? It's just in your face. You can't ignore it. I mean, literally, the only way to ignore it is just dig a hole and put yourself in it and then bury yourself up. Because if you're above ground and you're looking around, there's no way to hide. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's really mind-boggling, all the things that are happening. But I think even if you buried yourself, you're still gonna experience something.
Yeah, well,
you can't escape it. It's funny because the more you try escape, again, you'll hear me and Tom tell the story where people are consistently trying to escape it and ignore it, and you'll hear a lot of guest speakers say the same thing, and you get dragged kicking and screaming. It's like,
yeah, definitely. A lot of that is happening, and I see it every day. Are we good for time, or I wanted to touch on the subject, but I just want to check in with you.
We have a minute left, so you can touch
all right, so,
30 seconds.
Yeah, sure. There is definitely the energies and the people who are like doing their positive work right now. Those people who are doing their positive work, they're being affected by a lot of the energies that are coming in, but I feel that those that are not, they're not really working on their issues that they're having in their own personal lives and kind of just sort of like procrastinating. They are going through a living hell right now, guaranteed. You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing a lot of that too. People who are getting their stuff together, they're making those type of adjustments in their lives into, being more positive. They're having issues. They're dealing with the daily struggle.
Yeah, let me cut you off right there. So when I'm break, you're listening to the 100th Monthly Radio Show with just Ramon, your time on Indeed, and make sure you tune back.
Watching become a god. Watch people still roll. Only the truth can tell the truth. Then the truth can set you free. Only the truth can tell the truth. Then the truth can set you free.
Welcome back to the 100th Monthly Radio Show with Ramon. If you just tuned in, Tom is over at East Eddy. I guess he's test piloting a UFO or something. He's over at the conference over there. So he's going to bring back a lot of really good videos, so make sure you check out the website. Probably he'll have things up probably in a week and a half at the most. So the website, for those of you not familiar with the website, is the 100thmonkeyradio.com. And there you can check out all the archives and the pre-recorded show and all the videos and new stuff that we put up. Let me give out the number, which is 213-233-3998. Once again, a little slower, 213-233-3998. And my guest and very old friend is B. And B, so we were talking about how many people are receiving el tablazo, or as Tom calls it, the proverbial 2x4. B?
Hello? Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I spaced out for a second.
Did you get taken away?
You know what? I got caught up. Somebody sent me a message, and I was just reading it. Yeah. So you want me to start where I left off?
Yeah. We were talking about how people receiving a tablazo with a proverbial 2x4.
Yeah, I mean, look, I live up in the Bronx right now. I've been in Manhattan. I'm like, Manhattan person my whole life, but I walk around in the streets, and what I do is I observe. That's kind of like my thing. It's sort of my hobby, and I've seen so many strange things in New York. Like I would say, probably in the past couple of years, but even more prevalent, like in the past year or so. People just like. I don't want to say zombie because it's such a dead term now. It's just everybody uses it so much. I mean, just people sort of, I would say, literally like out of their minds. People are just, either they're so stressed out or, whatever the situation is, they're just not conscious of what they're actually doing in like the moment. You know what I mean? Like you have to really focus to sort of, to do what you need to do. You understand what I'm saying? People are literally walking around, and it's like they're not there. You know what I mean? Literally, it's like they're not paying attention to nothing around them. They seem like lost, and it's like a lot of people doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking
people
about.
will walk in front of a car and not even realize what's happening, and it happens all the time. It's just bizarre. I really do feel that the energies are like really coming through now. You know what I mean? And for you to be aware, you have to really work on those things. You know what I mean? You have to really focus on what you're doing all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess it's forcing you to be in the moment. But somebody in the chat room asked a question, and is does B believe that we are changing into something new, or is it something else?
Wow. Good question. I'm not sure if we're changing into something new in the sense that we're going to have our bodies. That my view is that maybe if we're in tune with what's happening, maybe certain abilities will be sharper or stronger or things like that. If you're talking about changing into something else, like a total different thing, I don't know. I definitely feel that our DNA is being activated in ways probably that we never thought of. You know what I mean? And especially when you're working in meditation, higher vibration, and just being a positive, person, doing good things. I think you automatically change the way your brain waves think and how you do so. So I think in that way we're probably changing. I don't think physically we're just new creatures or something like that, like a metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Maybe the type of spiritual metamorphosis, and maybe so maybe heightened sort of senses or abilities, and then, unless we, actually did blood tests, but, in about 10 years or something like that, we see there's some real major changes. But I definitely feel that our DNA is being activated in some way because people have like an intuitive sense for a lot of things that are really working on this, that are a lot sharper than probably they were before. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know.
Multitasking and stuff like that, and
Yeah. I want to say this, and then I want to go into intuition and
sure.
But it seems, I remember the guy I was talking about before, Khan, he was saying that when he was in the airport, I forgot where was it. It was in California, I think. I can't remember which airport exactly, but that they had spotted him, and he says that there's a special task force in airports that are basically their psychics, and he was, they pinned him and they brought him into a room and asked him many questions and kind of like gave him a test, and according to him, the test result was that he had like a third strand DNA.
Really?
Yeah, because the story with him is that he reached the what some people call the golden dragon body, or the diamond body, or the rainbow body. It's known as different things. So I'm wondering. I wonder many times if that's what's happening to a lot of us, that we're coming into something similar.
I would think maybe yes. I mean, those of us that are further along, on this sort of, spiritual path, or actually focusing and tuning in on that energy, you know what I mean? Like really are like making that come, in, like we're actually manifesting that.
Yeah.
I think, I think we're going to wind up doing things exponentially that people, probably thought was like, wait a second, that's some type of psychic ability or something like that, you know what I mean? I definitely feel like, and you see that all over, the...
He's gone.
our
there we
senses,
go.
our maybe certain abilities, psychic abilities, empathic abilities,
Hold on, dude.
intuitive abilities, definitely. All right.
Start over again, because I heard like a shh, and then you were gone.
Really?
Yeah, so...
Okay, hello?
that was weird, yeah. So,
okay, hey, hello, NSA and everybody else. Let's say hello. Let's say hello to Alphabet Super Cruise.
Yeah, maybe they'll
anyway.
learn something.
Just love your neighbor, for God's sake. Somebody just love your neighbor. Let's stop killing each other. You know what I mean? It just makes no sense.
Let me know if you guys can hear us clearly, or just hear B, or what's happening, because I'm not sure if we're all getting cut off, or if it's just me. But so far I don't hear B. I might have to call him back. He is offline. Okay. So I will call him back now. And while we try to get him back on, B, earlier I had a pretty weird dream. There he goes, phone's ringing.
Hello?
Yeah, you must have offended the NSA there. I heard that and you were gone.
They cut the phone line.
What
all right, so we all...
There, I know.
What are you going to do, man? Look, if they even tap the president, for God's sakes, I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Let people have a conversation. It's like nothing's happening here. But, it is what it is. What are you going to do, man?
It's a radio show.
People are in the streets for no apparent reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always think of the law of impermanence. You know what I mean? In 100 years, nobody's going to be here anyway. The people that are here right now in 100 years are not going to be here. 99.9% of them. It's going to be a whole new group. You know what I mean? So it's don't take things so seriously. You know what I mean? Which is why I love this show. You guys, it just seems it's a very relaxed atmosphere. You guys don't take things too seriously. You do talk about serious things, but some people seem to not like that you're talking about. But, it is what it is, man. But literally, if we're going to talk about it again, I'm going to restart again. If you cut off the phone line, then you know what it is, what's happening with it, or what we're talking about. But definitely, I feel that there is some changes that's happening to humans on the planet. Those who are in tune, we're affected by the energies of our entire solar system, even in being a different part of space. And we're going to change. We're part of the planet. If a tree can grow from the sunlight, what do you think happens to a human? Basic stuff. This is not no crazy science. It's just common sense stuff. People want to convolute and make things more complicated when it's just pretty simple. It's nothing crazy. You know what I mean? So, but that story from Khan is pretty. Wow. I never heard that, but I definitely probably would believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess let me give out the number again, because somebody typed in that.
Sure. Go ahead.
The other number was an auto repair shop. Where's the number? I have it up here. The number is 213-233-3998, and give us a call. So I want to go into intuition, and intuition is always a really big thing with me, and it's actually, I would say it saved my life a few times, or at least saved me a headache. I've had the experiences, I'm trying to think if you were there any of the times, but there was one time, were you there? I'm not sure if you were there or not. I don't think so, but I was talking to our friend Will, and I was telling Will, Will goes, it's funny how when something is about to happen, you somehow sense it and leave, and then 5 minutes later something happens. Or it's that one party that you miss, and all hell breaks loose. So, And then I left.
It's absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
Then I left, and a fight broke out with people that we know. And I'm not going to mention names, but
yeah, exactly.
Will call me the next day and tell me, hey, I thought we talked about that. Big fight broke out.
You know what's funny? That is something that happens to me all the time, and it's actually, I would say, almost quote unquote a family trait. It's in the lineage, because it's something that is very well known to us. Is that all of a sudden we'll have a feeling, and then we leave, we go, whatever the situation is. It's like we have that intuition, that sixth sense, or that guardian angel is saying, hey, time to go, and you don't second guess that. Although I've made decisions which I second guess that, and I don't want to pay for it. I wind up paying for it for sure. So definitely, if I feel that feeling, whether you want to call it the bacteria in the gut, that's pretty smart, that's been there for so long to tell you to move, you move. You do not wait. You do not, you just go, because those signals that your body's sending you is a survival mechanism to help you survive, whatever it is. And yeah, it's strange, because that's something that, and I want to mention a name now, and maybe the phone will get cut off again. That's something that Ingo Swann talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Ingo Swann would talk about that science only knows about one half of the brain. All of modern science, what they know is about one half of the brain, which is pretty incredible. And science based on, a bunch of young 20-something-year-olds from the late 1800s, Europeans, they're kind of, got backed by, who, you know what I mean, to basically put what mainstream science bases everything they know on. You know what I mean? How about the other part of the brain? How about the things we can't explain? Entire sciences that, were kept under wraps. You know what I mean? And this intuitive science of the fact that, you don't turn that corner and then all of a sudden it's like you have a precognition of something happening. Dude, those are real things that, that happen all the time to people, but people tend to blow it off. Or people that do know about it don't, they don't want people to actually, work on that. You know what I mean? That sort of ability. Because you can strengthen that. You know what I mean? Definitely.
Yeah,
and look at comic books. Comic books is a big one for that. You know what I mean? Comic books is all about that.
Yeah. The one type of people that that I've noticed that probably have one of the strongest, besides people who, sit and meditate and or martial artists, are people who in the life of not really legal things, selling the pharmaceutical stuff.
Well, you're talking, having, of course, a little bit of paranoia, number one, and then number two, you're having a strong will of you don't want to get caught. So yeah, that's an ability and that's something that's like street etiquette. I mean, literally, when to go back a little bit, which is probably the intuitive part. Growing up in New York City as a child, running around, because the streets were a playground back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is the urban jungle. You learn how to survive out in the street. Not that everything was good or everything was bad, but the fact is that you learn how to interact with other human beings and other things that were happening in the city. And you knew that there's signs, there's signals that are given. There's energy in the air. It says, wait a second, something looks like it's going to go bad. That's what people are trained to do, is go by their gut, instinct. So, these are abilities that when you're growing up in New York City, you have to be in tune. It's still a jungle, whether the animals are human, though. They're not actually,
I mean,
animals are human beings. It's not actually, like a lion. And, you're talking about a person. So, that's a very sort of strong feeling to sort of survive. You know what I mean? So you make a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, how does someone develop it? How would you go about developing it?
You know what? I think it's one of the big things, which is pretty hard, which a lot of people don't like to do, because it actually takes a lot of effort, and and that's being alone, man. Literally being by yourself with your own thoughts and being comfortable there. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's
people
true.
need other people around them constantly to fill a void because they feel that they can't be with their own thoughts. That's a whole other issue, for psychological purpose or emotional purposes. But the fact is that if you really want to try to build that up, it's like, you have to be quiet. You have to find, a quiet spot, and you have to be with your own thoughts, and you have to be observant, and you have to listen, and it has to be a routine. You know what I mean? And then you'll understand that whatever comes within your space, because like something the human being has an electromagnetic field that goes out at least 2 miles, but it like very close to about 55 feet is the distance in which you have an electromagnetic energy that's pretty strong, which comes out to that sort of precognition of like, why didn't the person turn the corner? Because they could feel something bad coming around, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they didn't. They went the other way. So we have this energetic field that's around us about 2 miles. It's actually scientifically proven. You go do the research if you want. They was doing a bunch of experiments before 9/11, and it was some scientists, trying to check out ESP or stuff like that, and they found out that on a global level, people could have, I think it was like a week or so before 9/11 happened.
Oh, yeah.
These, you heard about it? Okay, so
yeah, I
look,
forgot the guy's
so-
name.
yeah, exactly. So that sort of goes to that, is that you have to quiet down and you have to listen. You don't go into the jungle screaming and banging pans. You know what I mean? You don't do that. What you do is you walk around quietly and you sort of hear what's going on. So that's sort of what the whole deal is with that. You have to really use solitude as a way to sort of sharpen your skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do that. You know what I mean? It's deep meditative thought. Masters of that, would be, if you want to talk about that, martial arts would be ninjas. You know what I mean? That was a thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I had the pleasure of meeting one of oh my God, I always forget his name, the famous ninjutsu teacher here in it's like about 45 minutes from my house, the main dojo.
Really?
I can't remember the main teacher's name, but anyway, I met one of his old students. He's been like a student, I think, for the past 15 years or something like that. American guy.
Right.
And the funny thing is, like, I think 90% of the students are all Westerners.
Well, you know what? That's a very sad. Well, we could talk about that for a second. It's sad because since you live in Japan, there's a lot of people that live in Japan. I'm not going to say that they don't want to maintain their culture, but that the people that really honoring their culture a lot more are Westerners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always bug out when I see like one of those mans and it's like the Japanese Chicanos, you know what I mean? And they're all Chicanoed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like with the bikes and like, it's like, wow, this is incredible. Japanese do everything perfect. That's an amazing culture. They perfect everything. They turn everything into an art. You know what I mean?
That's
but some of their
very
culture is-
true.
Yeah, it's just sad because their culture is, which is maybe a good thing. The Westerners are having the Japanese culture survive. They're the ones, some would complain that it's a watered down version because it's not pure, you know what I mean? But anything that survives is good, you know what I mean? In a sense, that's something positive, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's actually a good thing, I think. But go ahead. I don't know if go into it too more.
No, it's fine. No, you're right about that, and it's funny because we could take ninjutsu as one example, and then you have Reiki as another example.
Right.
Right. And there's all of the esoteric things, and I just always find amazing how I will ask the average Japanese person, and they look at me dumbfounded. But then I ask any American, and they know what I'm talking about, and I'm just like, I don't get it. And what it is that I've learned is that a lot of it was tabooed and looked at as something bad. So it's kind of the same thing if you think about it in our own culture. Like, my parents being from the Dominican Republic, and your parents being from Puerto Rico, we have that whole Santeria culture, which is also tabooed, which would be our esoteric version of the same thing, and it's also taboo. Like you can't really talk about that out in the public. So it's the same.
No.
It's the same thing here with Reiki and the other esoteric teachings and stuff that they have here. So
it's what it is that it's spirit. It's contained spirit, and spirit is like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
It's the non-tangible. It's sort of the X-file of these sort of like these educational learning experiences that these people are sort of keeping alive, and there's definitely a stigma or like a taboo aspect to that, but it's nothing to be afraid of because it's how humans have survived. It's another way to survive. So that's kind of like something that was ingrained, saying that it's bad. Definitely not to be trifled with, because if you're doing stuff like that, you really need to know what the heck you're doing, because you don't know what you could be calling in or doing. But
yeah,
it's not a totally bad thing, because it's a survival mechanism. It's another part of human survival.
Yeah.
Part of who we are.
So going back to the instinct thing, this was a question that was asked to me a long time back, and actually I remember exactly where I was at when they asked me this question. I was at ESETI, and it was a younger girl, and I was telling her about instinct, and she said,
"Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that again? It was a little muffled. Sorry."
She asked me a question about instinct, and the question was, well, what's the difference between instinct when you feel like you should leave a place in fear? How do you know that it's not fear and it's instinct? And that's a good dive into. Dun, dun, dun.
You know what it is? Is that I think fear, the feeling is much stronger. You know what I mean? I think instinct is sort of like somebody tapping you on the shoulder and sort of saying, hey, you know what, maybe you should go. And you're like, you know what, maybe I should go. You know what I mean? It's almost like a suggestion. The intuition is like a suggestion, and then the fear is like actual fear. Like you literally, like you get scared, your gut turns, you start to sweat, and you have a fight or flight, like you want to run. You know what I mean? Or punch something. So I think the intuition is more of like a suggestive thought than an actual fear.
Yeah. With me, it's a little different. Well, it depends on the level of what's happening. One time I was supposed to go to a party, and when I was getting ready for the party to go, it was a New Year's party, and I had this like stomach turning feeling. And there was no fear to it whatsoever. It just, my stomach literally hurt, and I felt sick. So I told my wife, I said, we're not gonna go. And then as soon as we're not gonna go, my stomach was fine.
It went away.
It went away.
You know what? That could be your own sort of internal survival mechanism, knowing, or your own psyche saying, he'll explain your way.
Yeah.
If I make his stomach hurt, he's not going to go nowhere.
Yeah. Let me cut you off there real quick.
Sure.
So we're going on break again, and this will be the last segment coming up. So if you guys want to give us a call, give us a call. The website www.100centuryradio.com. We'll talk to you. Commercial break.
Only the truth can tell the truth, then the truth
back to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with Ramon and our guest B. I feel like it's always nice when you have guests and there's just that chemistry and stuff like that. And I guess it helps because we've been friends a long time. But speaking of chemistry, we have a caller online, and it's somebody who's been on the show. And let me bring him in. And John, you there?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, I
Good
can.
evening, gentlemen.
John,
Yes, I can hear you. Great.
Okay, I think there's might be.
Hey, B, you're doing a great job. I want to let you know.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my first time on, so I'm trying to do my best.
John could definitely teach you about being nervous on the air, so I always harass. So, John, you had a question for me?
I don't think you ever get rid of it. Yeah, I actually got a two-part question for you. I'll say it right now because I know there's a lag here. First one is, have you noticed in the last 10 years or so that the supernatural, quote-unquote, has increased or decreased? And if so, is it one particular, like, weird things happening, ghosts, UFOs, what have you?
Oh, okay. Yes, I definitely think in the 10 years, there's definitely, some type of energetic thing happening. I think basically it's just, like our solar system going into a new part of space, you know what I mean? I think definitely that's a big deal, and it's sort of opening up pathways and, maybe even other dimensions and things like that, if, you want to go that route. It's, definitely, I feel that those energies we can tap into if we choose to, but they're literally like right there. You just scratch at the veil or just, stroke your fingers across it, and if you're interested, yeah, I think you'll definitely get, some things happen to you, or some experiences. If you look, you will see, you will find. If you can perceive it, then you can see it. If you cannot perceive it, you will not see it. But definitely I feel that there's been a big change. Another thing that we didn't talk about a little bit was like sort of these time discrepancies, like things sort of shooting back and forth through time, because that's something that I definitely felt in the past 4 to 5 years is it's almost like time skips, like if we're being, fast forwarded and then rewinded and fast forwarded again. But definitely I've felt some type of energetic occurrences within the past 10 years that, yeah, if you really want to look, you will find, man. It's there. If you want to ignore, then it won't be there for you,
Yeah, I think John was one of those persons.
So you're noticing
Okay, John, finish your thought.
So you're noticing the past, present, future somehow warping in at the moment of now, then?
Yes, I definitely. Yes, I feel that whatever powers or energies are out there, or whatever's going on, I don't know if it's man-made or it's actually something that's happening within the universe itself. I feel many times that there's like time slips, or almost like pauses or jumps in time, and then sort of backwards and forwards. I personally believe, like as a lot of other people are talking about, that we're on a positive timeline if you choose to be on it. If your whole mental, your whole spiritual is like you want to be on this positive timeline, you're there. You have to act accordingly, obviously. But definitely, we have made that transition. I think, human consciousness on, like I said, on a global level, has already changed into a more positive way. I was listening earlier to one of the shows that Weber was on, and, talking about how it's like being on a boat and we're going forward and you're seeing the pieces of this sort of negative timeline, or, you talk about these negative entities and their control, sort of piece of it floating by you, you know what I mean? But we're already in that direction. So I'm just sort of seeing, this positive timeline coming through, breaking through this darkness. If you want to, say it's like the lotus breaking through the mud, finding the light and then blossoming above. You could use that same analogy also. We're definitely on that path, and hopefully the more people who wake up and on a positive mental mindset and a heart set can keep that going. You know what I mean? We have to keep people sort of by our own daily lives, what we do in our daily lives, people seeing what we do in our daily lives and how we have made these adjustments, to say I'm sick of the old system, I'm sick of how things used to be. I'm going to at least change my own personal life in some way in a positive manner. That, in a sense, reverberates against everybody else. So the more that happens in your own personal daily life, the more you're changing the planet. Even though you can only change yourself, in reality, you're changing everything around you, too. Hello?
I love that. You did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for
Hello?
It's a 6-second delay, so I was counting the 6 seconds, waiting for John to answer. One of the things I was talking earlier to be offline, and I was saying how I had like a crazy dream, and right before I woke up, it's funny that I'm so glad that John called and mentioned that, because I feel that you have an insight into what I would call either time stopping or time delays. And I'll give you an example that I think everybody would understand. It's that time delay that you go through when you're about to get into an accident, or you're going, especially for martial artists when they're fighting, they talk about
time slows down.
Yes.
We actually manipulate time. That's a whole other thing we'll have to talk about, because there's not enough time for that. But if you have me back on again, we can get into some serious martial art, esoteric stuff. And yes, you can manipulate time. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, John, you've had experiences of manipulating time, right?
Yes, I have. Quite a bit. Now remember, you have time. You have time changes. You have timelines colliding, and you also have the linear concept of time. The linear concept of what we consider linear is breaking down. So you're getting more of a parallel processing of our thoughts.
Right. Oh yes, agreed.
Yeah. All right, John, I'm gonna let you go, but thank you for calling.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And we'll definitely bring you back on the show. Maybe we'll bring you and B on the show together. Count the time today. 1, 2, 3.
I'd love that. I listening to B right there for the last hour. For listening to B for the last hour and a half, there's a lot of things he's experiencing that I have, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. And thank you for having me on. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I'll talk to you soon, Ramon.
All right, you too, man.
All right. Bye. Thank you. That was awesome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, John's one of those amazing people that I don't know if you ever got a chance to listen to. We did like a 4-hour interview with him. I don't know if you
really.
Yeah, it's just the man's full of for our guests out there, for our listeners out there. Go to the website, and if you look up on the archives and look up John Meyer, you'll see there's like 4 hours. Yeah. You got
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Little by little, because it's packed full of information. But I do want to get a little bit into the time thing, because I don't know how to explain it. I'll tell you what I see things, I feel things, but there's an image to that feeling and that sound. When I'm in the hypnagogic kind of state, and my cat woke me up early this morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and then I started getting sleepy after I talked to you, which was around, I think, 7 o'clock my morning, and then, it was like 8 o'clock my morning, so I took a nap for 30 minutes, and I was telling B the story. I kept asking my guide, is it time for the show yet? And she was like, it's not time. But right before I woke up, I saw you kind of get blown back by something, and I couldn't tell what it was, and then you kind of like stopped time and then you went straight down. So instead of being blown out, you went straight down. And it wasn't so much that you have, because it kind of looked like a superpower, but I think it was more, what I felt was like, ask them about this, but they or whoever put that in my mind, it wasn't
Right.
like a direct question, to ask you. It was like, let's put this image in his mind and then let him figure it out. But it felt like a question for him, the image.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. People, when you're getting that type of stuff, it'll even be a smell. You'll get a smell, the image, and then like an annotation. It's like a weird little thing. It's like linked in together to give you a general idea of what it is that's going on, or that you're feeling, or that you're seeing. And then you kind of have to sort of figure it out. Sometimes it's very direct and you see it exactly, and sometimes it's like, almost like a puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have the sort of feeling and a little, and then you're like, okay, well, what is it exactly? And yeah, definitely. But I've been lucky. God bless, my ancestors and the people, they pray for me on a daily basis. They know who they are, and I'm thankfully well loved by many people. You know what I mean? And I'm totally appreciative to them and to Source and God, or whoever you want to call, who's out there looking out, man. Because definitely there's been many situations that sixth sense, intuition, divine guidance, has sort of got me through. I mean, let me talk about an experience to sort of finish, or not finish off, to sort of talk about, which is strange in terms of trying to control something that you sort of thought that you saw in a premonition, and you're saying that's not going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. There was an experience I had. It's a personal experience. My daughter was very young. She was about 2 years old or something like that. And we were in the living room, and my then spouse was in the, I think she was in the kitchen or something like that. And we were in the living room, and my daughter was playing a game of like, I would grab her hand, and then she would pull away. Grab her hand, and she would pull away. Grab her hand, and she would pull away. Now, in my dream, I had actually saw this situation happening. It didn't come to me until the actual situation happened, that I was like brought back to the actual experience. So me and my daughter are playing this game of pulling, and I got to the point, I go, look, let's stop playing this game. Let's stop doing this pulling and pulling. And at one of those moments, my daughter pulled away like violently. She kept getting stronger and stronger. She pulled away violently, and she spun, lost her footing, and she smacked the back of her head against a metal sort of part of a futon.
Yeah.
And she collapsed in front of me. Okay, and I thought she had bumped her head, and then I'm looking at her, and she actually started to sort of seize up and curl. Okay, I was absolutely freaking out, like out of my mind. I didn't know what to do. My spouse is in the other room, and I'm, like calling her to come in. And in the dream, I'm seeing this, like, watch happen. You know what I mean? And I'm saying, no, it's not going to happen. I can control this. There's no way. And as it's happening, and I'm watching this happen, I start to see her turn blue, and I see her lips turn purple. And I utterly freak out. My spouse takes over. She starts helping out, and I literally jump and run into, we had a room, and I get hands and knees and pray, please help her. You know what I mean? I didn't know what to do. I was just totally out of it. And from that moment on, I'll always remember, because of that experience for me. And she wound out fine, and, it was a bit of a stress situation afterwards, but she wound up coming out great, and everything was cool. She wound up breathing. She was freaking out because they had to put her in like a neck brace or stuff like that for support. But after that day, I never questioned when something, like when I would get a vision or something like that, I would never ever question what was told to me in that. I would always believe it as truth. Like, there's some things that when you're given these messages, it's not that you can control them. Sometimes it's just going to happen. You got to deal with it. You know what I mean? So that was a great, Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's more to prepare you, I guess, psychologically, but because you try to fight against it, you actually make it. Wow, that's like some science fiction story.
Yeah, I mean, but it's something that actually happened to me. There's a few people who actually know about that, and I really don't mind about the World One because it's a very scary experience when you think that you're somewhere and you're like, there's no way something's going to happen. That's not going to happen. And then when you're actually seeing, experiencing it, it's like it's completely and utterly surreal. You literally feel like you're not there. Time stops. It's very bizarre. Like you don't feel like you're there in that moment. You look and feel like you're floating on air, and you're not sure exactly what's going on. It feels like you're in this little swirling little time warp. You know what I mean? It's very strange. But that's when the day I knew is that there's some sort of higher powers. You know what I mean? Because if I didn't have perceived that or seen that probably in a dream first, I probably would have not been able to handle that situation at all. You know what I mean? It probably would have completely traumatized me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I guess in a sense, well, okay, go ahead, man. I didn't mean to.
No, that just makes me wonder, is some things predestined and you knew that it was going to happen, but you couldn't stop it? So that's to say that some things are, I'm not saying everything, some things are predestined and you can't stop it.
Exactly. Thankfully everything turned out just fine, in that experience. But sometimes there are some things you just can't change. It's just going to happen. You just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It kind of reminds me of the movie, it's different, but what was it, Time Machine? Is it Time Machine? The really old one, that it was a book from the 1800s.
There were so many versions.
Yeah. But
I'm not sure which version you can tell, but I've seen a couple of them, the more modern ones, but not the old ones. I don't even remember those.
Jules Verne's Time Machine.
Sounds familiar, but I don't remember. And I've probably seen it. I just can't recall it right now.
Well, I would tell you this way. You probably remember. It's like the guy is in the 1800s, and his wife gets killed by a mother. So he's already working on the time machine, and he keeps going back to that day to change it. And every time he changed it, she would just die a different way.
Right.
And so he went further into the future to find a way on how to change that, but he never could.
Right. I do remember the version. He had like a big brownish long like mustache, and he had like the little iron glasses and stuff like that, right? And like a tweed suit. I think that was like a 70s or 80s version, right?
Yeah, that's a 70s.
I think it was probably an 80s version. Yeah.
There's also, I think, a 90s or 2000 version.
Oh, yeah, there was another one made later on, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, basically the same premise where you, there's some things you can't change. But then there's other times, because I've had the same thing where I'm in a situation and I know what's going to happen. You know what? I'll tell the story really, really quickly. I went to an interview, and I got when the girl came in and was talking, I got the feeling that I was going to get really angry with her, and we were going to start yelling at each other. Like, it was like a deja vu. Like, I saw this, like, we were arguing with each other. And then later, she told me that I didn't fit the company. Yeah, I'll continue with the story, and I'll see how it sounds in the recording. But the funny thing is that we end up not. I knew it was going to happen. I knew I wasn't going to get the job, and I just reacted different to it. So I guess.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
No, I came back again.
Yeah, I guess we get those hints, like, not to react the wrong way, and sometimes it's not to stop what's going to happen, but just your reaction to it.
Right.
Yeah, it makes lots of sense. So give everybody out there, I don't know how clear they can hear it, but give everybody out there.
Yeah, I think everybody else, what I'm hearing here is that the weird sound is not coming through on streaming, so I guess we can hear yeah, I don't know, that's why I'm hear John, he's I read the chat. seems that we're coming clear to him, but maybe we're hearing his sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, somebody's talking about George Cavasilis, how he.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
I'm checking it out.
Yeah. So, I guess we can talk about that next time. But when you're in action, is it something that you can do on purposely, like slow down time, or it just happens naturally?
I think is what you're really doing is that you're cheating. There's a way to cheat it. There's actually a way to sort of, what happens is that you're flowing more in tune, understanding structure. What happens is that you're actually not going through. So what happens is you sort of cheat it. You know what I mean? We can actually get more in depth in that. There's definitely not going to be enough time for that. But what happens is that you sort of cut the corners. You know what I mean? You're making it more smooth. Instead of something being rigid, you're actually cutting it down to a smooth surface. And by doing that, you're actually sort of, it seems like you're doing time travel. What you're doing is that you're just cutting the edges. You know what I mean? If that's like the simplest way I could probably try to explain it. I could actually demonstrate it martially, doing martial arts, but if you're trying to get a visual picture of what's happening, the way you're doing is sort of like that time travel. You're doing things that the mind and the eyes don't pick up, but the body you can tune to do. That it's like a delayed reaction. By the time they realize what's going on, you're already somewhere else.
Yeah,
you know
let me.
That's sort of like the time warp.
Yeah, we're coming up at the end of the hour, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us today. Really appreciate you guys. Make sure you check us out at www.100thmonkeyradio.com. And have a good night, everyone. Oh, I love you.
Right.
Tonight is the pen you carry.
Good night. Thanks a lot for everything, Ramon. Bye-bye.